All right.
Okay.
Everyone good to go?
Yeah.
All right. Good luck.
Okay, and then Cameron, hide your video,
Yes.
and then we're good to go. Good luck, everybody.
Okay, I'm going to start it now.
All right. So we'll give some time for people to come in, but how are you? How's everything?
Hello. So I am currently in a hotel because my parents caught COVID and I can't go home, but it's all good.
Well, I just got out of quarantine last month and oh my God, it was torture.
Oh my God, where were you quarantined? Just like in your house?
I was just locked in my room for 2 weeks.
Oh, well, that's fine. Look at all the books you have, like infinite, like stuff to do.
Yeah, except I just had no motivation to read, so they were just mocking me from my walk.
No, I get you.
But we'll give people some time to come in. So as everyone comes in, welcome. We're gonna get started in a couple minutes. We're just gonna give everyone some time. But yeah, have you been reading anything good lately? Anything fun?
I've been reading, the Sunbearer Trials by Aiden Thomas.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Oh yeah, I got an advance copy of it because authors get those for blurbs and it is so good. So good.
I am so jealous that I have been dying to read that book. I can't wait.
It does not disappoint. It is so good. The world building in it just blows my mind. There's so much detail, like all the different cities and different places and the different gods. It is so mind blowing, and it is perfection. It is a masterpiece.
Okay, well, I now need to read that. I'm just gonna be annoying Aiden now.
Yeah, do it.
All right, so as everyone's filtering in, hello, good evening. I'm Kate. I'm from Caitsbooks on TikTok, and thank you all for coming to our Bookington Book Club author event. Just in case for anyone who doesn't know, our book club joined Fable last year, and our members vote each month on what we pick for our next read. So if you haven't already, you can join and start reading and discussing with us at fable.co/Bookington, and there should be a link in the chat too. On the Fable app, you can read and share annotations, which I think is really fun and can be very chaotic, which I love. You can also start conversations right inside the book, just like Wattpad, but for bestsellers. And today, I am honored to be welcoming the incredible author of our latest read, Iron Widow, Xiran Zhao. Hi.
Hello.
So for everyone who doesn't know, Xiran Zhao is the #1 New York Times bestselling author of the Iron Widow series and Zachary Ying and the Dragon Emperor. I have it here with me.
Oh yeah, that comes out in what day is it today? It's the 7th. It comes out in 3 days.
Yes. Oh my, that's so exciting.
I know, right? Second book releases. It's so much more chill, I swear.
So Xiran is a first-generation Hui Chinese immigrant from small-town China to Vancouver, Canada. They were raised by the internet and made the inexplicable decision to leave their biochem degree in the dust to write books and make educational content instead. You can find them on Twitter for memes, Instagram for cosplays and fancy outfits, TikTok for fun short videos, and YouTube for long videos about Chinese history and culture. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you, and I want to thank you for being here with us tonight. This is just going to be so fun.
Oh, but thank you for inviting me, and I'm so impressed that you pronounce Hui right.
I'm glad I got it right. But so everyone had read Iron Widow for our April book last month, but there may be some people in here who may not be as familiar with it yet. So how would you describe the books you write?
Okay, so all the books I write are kind of like science fantasy in the way that comic books and Marvel movies are, and a lot of anime too. They're very anime inspired. And I take deep inspiration from Chinese history and myth. Those are my biggest muses, which comes from a tradition of just Chinese literary tradition is deeply influenced by its history, and historical fantasy is basically the #1 genre in classic Chinese books. So I'm very influenced by that. And therefore, I just do really wacky stories based on Chinese myth and history. And Iron Widow is a sci-fi reimagining of Wu Zetian, the only female emperor in Chinese history, but with giant mechas based on Chinese myth creatures. So it's that kind of book.
It is so amazing. Now, when you were writing these books, do you ever have a particular audience in mind or community that you're writing for?
Yeah, so I write everything. I do everything, including my online content for Chinese diaspora because I feel like especially when you don't speak the language, or there's a lot of Chinese diaspora who can't read Chinese, so they're cut off from a lot of information about Chinese history and myth. So I do my best to just make that info accessible in English and coming from an actual Chinese person, because I know how weird it is when you have to like relearn your culture from these like really old white men scholars, and it's just not a good feeling. So it's always good to like have someone who's in your own community and be like, oh hey, yeah, this is what was going on, this is what's up.
I love that. And that is so important for readers out there to be able to find those books. Now, you mentioned a little bit about the story behind Iron Widow and the historical context for it. Now, what inspired you to write Iron Widow? What inspired you to choose to write this story?
Well, it was my disappointment with the anime Darling in the Franxx. And by that, I mean, it was like the best anime I'd ever seen for its first 13 episodes. But then the second half of the show just didn't go where I wanted it to go. And then I was ranting to a friend about what I wish the show had done differently. And slowly that rant like got further and further off from the original thing, that I was like, oh, hey, like what if I wrote this as an original story? And then I thought about how I wanted, so in Darling in the Franxx, they have this mecha system that's piloted by a pair of a boy and a girl. But I feel that it didn't go far enough in deconstructing that like inherent heteronormativity of that system. And also like it was, the Darling in the Franxx system was pretty like gender egalitarian, but I was like, I don't know, I feel like what if this had like, what if this was actually a metaphor for the patriarchy? and like the girl pilots were disproportionately affected by the battle pressure and died more often. So then the boy pilots become celebrities, while the girl pilots are just seen as their disposable concubines. But then the story is centered around a girl who volunteers herself as one of these concubines in order to save her, well, avenge her sister's life because her sister's dead. and then immediately that got me also thinking about like the moment the concubine concept came into my head, I immediately thought about C-dramas, because like harem dramas are a big thing in Chinese dramas. And I was like, well, there is no concubine who was more iconic or went further than Empress Wu, who went from folding bed sheets as a concubine to becoming like sole legitimate ruler of China. And I was like, so what if this was actually a sci-fi retelling of Empress Wu's story? So that's how everything panned out.
Well, I really love just how it all came together. It was such a unique and incredible story. It was so addictive to read too. But I want to talk a little bit about the characters in this book because they leave such an impression on you. How did you create them? So you obviously pulled a little bit from history, but making them so complex and just come to life on the page, what was the process you went through to write them?
I think basing it off of historical figures gave it that complexity, because when you think about historical figures, then they were humans, so they are very complicated to begin with. And especially since Li Shiming, the character that, I mean, no, am I frozen? Is my video frozen, or is it just on my end?
It looks frozen on my end.
No, why? Okay, I think my internet is buffering. That is no. Zoom says it's not responding, but I can hear you.
I can hear you too. Clearly, we're just cursed. This is forbidden knowledge. We're not allowed to know.
Yeah. Oh my god. Okay, you can still hear me because okay. So Tang Taizong, the emperor that Li Shiming was based off of.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we can't hear now. Oh no. This is really
is.
Oh, you came back.
Okay. Did I? Oh, it still
you
says
went in and out for a minute.
Okay. It still says it's not responding to me, but anyway, as long as my audio is still working. So, but the historical emperor really did kill his brothers and like imprison his father for the throne. So he was a really morally great person, but then you look into the historical records and he was also really sensitive. Like he really liked to cry, and then he would like write poems, and he was like, oh, you know, like historically his poems are questionable. and like they're of questionable quality, or at least the like the major poem critiquers say they are. I don't know. I think they're pretty good. I mean, they're fine, but then the like actual poem snobs are like, oh no, his poems are mediocre at best. So I don't know, but I think they're fine. So that's why Shiming has this like tender artist side, in addition to being this like really brutal dude who like went to prison. Because, you know, if he wasn't born a prince and he didn't take the throne, then definitely he would go to prison for like murdering his brothers. So that's why I imagine him being born in a different social class in the book. And then historically, he was also mixed race. The early Tang emperors were mixed race, and then later on they all had like Han concubines. So I guess like it's slowly like diluted, but yeah. So he was mixed race, and I was like, so what if this? Well, back then it didn't matter, but in the Widow world, I was like, what if this mattered even more? So that's you know the kind of stuff I considered while creating these characters, just like the complexity inherent in their history.
Mm-hmm. Well, it came out so well, and these characters really do stick with you. I also think every book needs a love interest with who's just a bad poet, though. I think that should be a requirement. That now just needs to be in every single book. So I also want to talk a little bit about your writing style, because I think your book is so easy to get into while still like allowing for all these complexities in the world building and the characters. So how did you develop it? And do you have any tips for anyone who may be a writer or an aspiring author for how to develop their writing style?
Read what is being published, because I definitely didn't start off with this writing style, but I read various books, recently published books, and I think that's the most important thing you can do as an author. If you want to break into the industry, then you have to know what's going on in the industry. And I developed my writing style by reading books and then seeing what kind of writing style I liked. And then I was like, oh, I like what they did there. And then like read books with like an analytic mind, just like what did authors do that you liked? And so you keep that in mind, and then you learn from every other author. And still now, every book I read, I learn something from it. I'm like, oh, I really did like what they did there, or oh, I didn't like what they did there, and maybe I should avoid that. So yes, nowadays I read books so carefully, and that's why I'm so slow, but still. Also, ever since becoming an author, I'm just impressed by anyone who manages to finish a book. So impressed by every book I read now.
Every book is a win. They all count as a win.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to ask you also a little bit about just in general, any advice you would have for people who want to get into the publishing industry who just want to write. What is some of the best advice you've received, or some of the best things that you've learned that you think people should know?
Yeah, aside from reading in your genre, knowing your audience, there's also know your ending before you write your story, because only then can you write with a momentum. You have to know, you have to like, you can only find the most efficient way to go somewhere if you know where you're going, if you know your destination. So that was the most important thing I learned, because like, I think in my first 3 books, I didn't really know how I was going to end them. So I just let the story like meander by itself. And I found that for me, that was not the most efficient way to do things. And nowadays I try to like plot out an ending and then know the character arc that my protagonist goes through. So like with that little bit of planning, I think my books have become so much stronger.
So when you write, do you outline a lot? Is like your planning really in depth, or is it more vague? I'm curious.
I try to plot. I do have like a whole beat sheet that I try to fill out, but often I just start writing. Like I know the ending, I know the character arc, and then I fill in as much of the sheet as I can, and then I just start writing, because things are going to change.
Yeah. So I have a couple other questions about writing, because I know in the club we have a lot of people who are interested in writing. So I'm curious, with writing Iron Widow being your debut novel, I got both the books here for reference, got to be prepared. So with Iron Widow being your debut novel, what was your favorite part of the writing and publishing process, and what maybe was the most challenging? Oh, we lost them. Oh no. Hopefully they'll be able to come back soon. But in the meantime, in the chat, if you guys want to see if when they can come back, we can get some questions. But yeah, also, hi, Danny, I see you there. So if you guys want to think of some questions, hopefully we'll be able to get them back in and then we'll have the chance to ask them. So this is a good time to brainstorm. Otherwise, how is everyone doing in the chat? We'll just take this moment to check in with everyone. Has everyone here finished Iron Widow? Let's see. So, okay, so we got people who loved it. We know Danny read it in a few hours. I got updates. But yeah, so I know I read it so quickly. It was so good. Literally my favorite. I loved it since last year. It is incredible. But yeah, so, and yeah, feel free to send in any questions. There's also, I know, the Q&A feature in Zoom. So if you want to send them through there. By the way, the epilogue destroyed me. I feel that same. I read it a while ago and totally inhaled it, was so hyped for its release and it totally lived up to it. Yep, I definitely agree. This was one of my most anticipated releases when it was coming out, and it lived up to all of my hopes. I'm halfway through with it and love it so far. I hope to finish it for a live stream tomorrow. Oh yes, that's another thing for you guys to know. We will be doing a live stream tomorrow on TikTok just to discuss this book. It'll just be on my TikTok. It'll be very relaxed, but just so you guys know, that will be happening. So yeah, I already see we're doing questions. You don't normally read books like Iron Widow. That resulted in me reading it in one go. But yeah, that I feel like sci-fi we don't see enough in YA. We don't get enough of this like epic, really fun sci-fi. It's starting to pick up a little bit more, but I know in publishing it has been a hard sell for a while. So it's really exciting to see an incredible sci-fi like this one come out. I wasn't even planning on reading it until I saw it. It's played as a cross between Pacific Rim and Handmaid's Tale, and I was like, I need this. It's so good. Oh, are they back? Awesome. Yep, I hear you.
Okay, but do you see my video?
Don't see your video.
Oh my god, this hotel Wi-Fi, I swear. Okay, I'm sorry. But okay, as long as you can hear me, that's all good. Okay, so where were we?
We were talking about so Iron Widow being your debut novel, and what kind of your favorite parts of the publishing process, and then the least favorite or the more challenging parts.
The favorite part's definitely seeing everyone's reactions, and there's so many good ones. And then my favorite one is this reader in France who was like in a French bookstore, and then they said they were staring longingly at the French translation of the book, and then their dad came over and was like, oh, like, do you want that book? We can get it. And then apparently they like left it at their dad's house or something. And then the next time they phoned each other, the dad was like, oh, by the way, I finished that book with the Chinese people. I really liked it. Is there more? And it made me laugh so hard because like, oh my God, just like the vision I got of this just like old like French dad like reading my book. And I was like, oh yeah, that book with the Chinese people, so good.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
Have there been like any challenges you faced or any parts that have been a little bit harder, but obviously
the whole publishing process?
Just all of it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm pretty public about this, but I didn't get a very splashy deal for Iron Widow. It was not enough to live on, and hence why I had to like write Zachary in. I was like, oh, I gotta get more money. I gotta get another book deal, or else I'm not gonna be able to pay my bills. And so that is why I started a second series. And then yes, when some people ask me, oh, why did you decide to start a second series so fast? It's because I needed money. There's no other reason. I wouldn't choose to do 2 series at once if I didn't need money. But thankfully, Iron Widow has sold really well now. And yeah, and I have now started getting royalties, which is really good. So now I can finally pay the bills with Iron Widow money.
That's so awesome though.
Yeah.
Now, when Iron Widow came out, I remember it took like the book community by storm. I remember seeing it happen. It's now considered like one of like the popular book talk books. You see it on book talk tables, and this club started on book talk, so I know this is something that people might be interested in. But was that anything? Did you expect the reaction you got to it? How popular it got?
Definitely not, because again, I got rejected by so many publishers, including by like every US-based publisher. So that's why I'm with Penguin Random House Canada. They were like, okay, we're willing to take a chance on this because publishing is like allergic to YA sci-fi. And they're like, oh, sci-fi could never sell. And then I had several interested editors, but then they couldn't get it past acquisitions because I presume it's because like acquisitions was like, oh yeah, no, this book is never going to sell. And then the advance amount that I got at the publisher that ended up taking me on was like, you can kind of tell like how many copies your book is projected to sell by your publisher by the size of advance that they give you. And I think that they didn't expect me to sell more than a few thousand copies, but now like it's selling a few thousand copies per week for like 27 weeks now.
That's amazing. Now, I was mentioning this before when you were gone for a minute, but about how YA sci-fi has been kind of a tough sell for people. But with Iron Widow, I think you're proving to a lot of people how incredible the genre is. And I know some people in the chat want more books like Iron Widow. So do you have any recommendations for books like Iron Widow or just YA sci-fis that you really love?
Oh yeah, Cold the Night, Fast the Wolves by Meg Long. It's set on like this ice planet, and it features like wolf sled racing. It's really good, and the world building is amazing. And then the character arc makes me really emotional every time I think about it, and it just like it's so immersive. So that's really good. And then of course there's like E.K. Johnston's books, like Aetherbound, those books. And then this is adult, but I feel like it would appeal to YA audiences as well. But The First Sister by Lyndon A. Lewis blew my mind. It really blew my mind. And so yeah, I really, really recommend that. And it's really like so queer, so good, and so intense. And I have so much praise for that book. Just The First Sister by Lyndon A. Lewis.
Awesome. That sounds amazing. I think I have to add that to my TBR now.
Mm-hmm.
So also, just in general, what are some great books you've read recently while we're talking about recommendations?
Well, oh God, a lot of my books that I read are books for blurbing, so they haven't come out yet. But yeah, there is The Sunbearer Trials by Aidan Thomas. That's so good. God, like, good God, it's so good. And so that, if you haven't heard of it, it's like, it is like the Hunger Games, but with, I know the Hunger Games is such a cliche, but like it's basically a competition featuring like demigods, but the gods are based on, well, they're technically original gods, but it's like heavily based on Mexican culture, and it has some of the most amazing world building I've ever seen, and the characters are so charming, and everybody is so queer, and it's like queer, it is queer joy, it is queer normalization, it's so good. And oh, I dropped my phone. You can't see. Oh, but you couldn't see that because my video isn't working. Woohoo!
Can't see it. You just heard the shout.
And oh my God, what else am I? Oh, I'm also reading Cake Eater, which is like cyberpunk Marie Antoinette. It's kind of like, it's the most similar premise to Iron Widow that I've seen in publishing. It's like historical fiction set in the future. So it features like the story of Marie Antoinette and her husband Louis XVI, but in like a cyberpunk future world. And it's been really good so far. So yeah, Cake Eater, but that comes out also in like a couple of months. And then I've also read a lot of MG recently, middle grade. And middle grade, it is so lit this year. I have so many good recommendations. I think I have a whole list of them. I recently read Shad Hadid and the Librarians of Alexandria, and which is exactly what it sounds like. It's this boy, Shad, who goes to an academy in like, it's the Library of Alexandria, but like hidden it somewhere. And now they teach like alchemy and sciences and math and stuff. And then he has to like do alchemy to get out of various situations. And it's really funny. It's really good. And there's also Onyeka and oh my God, was it on Yeika and the Solar Academy? Oh no, it was on Yeika and the Academy of the Sun. And it's like Black Panther meets X-Men, and it's every bit as epic as it sounds. And it's set in like near future Nigeria. So good. That's MG. And then there's also, well, MG sci-fi is really popping off this year, and then all these are like books that are to come, so they're not available yet, but they will be, and I'm really happy about that. And so on Yeika is coming, when is it coming out? It's oh yeah, June 9th, so not that far off. And then there's also Theo Tan and the Fox Spirit by Jesse Q Sutanto. That's also like based on Chinese myth. But it's also set in like this near future world where like they use magic spells to like mimic advanced technology. It's really cool. And then there's also Nura and the Immortal Palace by M.T. Khan, and it has such beautiful writing. It's about this girl who like mines mica, but then she stumbles upon this like other like fantasy world of Jinn. It's also really good, coming July 5th. So yeah, I have a lot of recommendations, but they're mostly not out yet.
Well, that's perfect, because then we don't have to worry too much about our immediate TBR. We can slowly read them as they come out.
Yeah.
It's less overwhelming that way.
Okay, I'm gonna paste my like MG recommendations in the chat. So there you go.
Perfect.
Oh, that got formatted weird, but there you go.
Perfect. I've been needing to read more middle grade, so I'm adding all of these to my TBR immediately.
Yes, please.
So another question I had was, when you're writing Iron Widow, now with it out, what was the main thing that you would want readers to take away from it?
Stand up for yourself. It is just because you cannot appeal to those people who are oppressed. You cannot hope to like defeat those. You cannot, how do I phrase this? You can't hope to like gain rights by appealing to the morality of those who oppress you. You have to make them see the consequences of their actions. And so you have to stand up for yourself and not afraid to like have a voice. And yeah, so that's like basically, yeah, you really just, you gotta speak for yourself for that, because no one else is gonna do it for you as like fiercely. No one else is gonna advocate for you as fiercely as you can. So that's my message in Iron Widow, because I think there was a period before I wrote Iron Widow where I was kind of a pushover. Even though like I thought of myself as such a strong person, but really I realized that I was giving concessions to a lot of people that I shouldn't have. And then when I wrote Iron Widow, I was just like, I was so angry. And nowadays I flip open the book and then I was like, ooh, I did not write this in a good place. Oh, wow, this is really brutal. Because I'm in a lot better place now. So I look back on it and I'm like, oh God, oh no. But still, I think you can kind of feel that like concentrated rage in the book.
But honestly, so many people can relate to that. It's like something that I think can hit hard really in everyone. And it's such an important message and lesson, especially like for teens to be able to read now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so perfect. Now, I did want to ask a little bit about, we kind of going back a little bit to what we were talking about before with the historical context for this book. What was the research process like? How much research did you have to do, and what did that look like for you?
So I didn't really do that much research because, you know, it's not historical fiction, but still I did do some really deep reading on Empress Wu's entire life story, so I could like pick and choose which parts I wanted to adapt and the themes that I wanted to like take from her life. And this is like not related to her life itself, and I do feel like it's important. But the time that she lived, women's rights actually went down after her because she became like the most powerful person in China. And then in the subsequent dynasty, the Song dynasty, women's rights like slowly started sliding back. So I think the lesson there is that, you know, history doesn't always go in the direction that we want. And we really do have to like keep fighting for our rights to keep them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that it's so true and so important. And then before we head over to the audience Q&A, in which everyone, if you have questions, feel free to send them. So you can send them in to the Q&A portion, or you can send them into the chat. I'll be going through both. But my one other question before we switch over is about your upcoming books. So do you want to tell everyone a little bit about them?
Oh yes. So yeah, Zachary Yin and the Dragon Emperor coming out May 10th, and it's about this Chinese American boy, Zach, who didn't really grow up with a connection to the Chinese side of his heritage, but that one day the spirit of the first emperor of China possesses his AR gaming headset. So this is kind of like in the near future. And then the first emperor of China, he's like this famous tyrant, and he compels Zach to go on a journey across China to like heist artifacts and defeat real figures from history and myth. And all the artifacts are like real ones from history, because I'm a total archaeologist nerd. And then Zach gets these like dragon powers over like water and storms and rain, and it's so wacky. I wrote it for my 12-year-old self, and I really hope that people enjoy it.
I think people definitely will. It sounds so fun. I've been so excited to read it. I've had it here on my desk, just like mocking me because I want to pick it up so bad. So yeah, so everyone go pre-order that now. This is your sign. And then someone else wanted to know, will there be a sequel to Iron Widow?
Yes, I guess. The next book, Heavenly Tyrant, is coming out next year, because I am not mean enough to leave you guys hanging on that cliffhanger.
Yeah, that would be torture. By the way, reading that epilogue, after I read it, I ran down to my dad and just explained the entire plot just so I could rant about it.
Oh my God.
I'm actually impressed. He just sat there and listened to like an hour-long description of everything that happened. But yeah, no, that epilogue was cruel. I am being tortured. So we need that sequel.
Yeah.
But so we do have some questions from the audience, and if you guys want to send in some more, please feel free. But yeah, also just, everyone in the chat is very excited about Zachary Yen. So the first question we have is just, what's your opinion on Pacific Rim? Oh, I don't know if we can hear you. This is more forbidden knowledge, clearly. It's too powerful for us to know. Oh no. But if you guys want to send in some more chats and send in some more questions, now is the perfect time. But yeah, hopefully the audio will come back in. Danny, your question was too hard. Also, Danny saying anything with virtual augmented reality is a selling point for me. Honestly, same. I've been so excited. Just so you guys can see, this is coming out very soon, so you guys can pick it up. Is this me showing off my advanced copy? Possibly. But there you go. So hopefully they'll be able to join back in. We'll see. But yeah, I don't know. Have you guys in the comments seen Pacific Rim? I want to see your answers to this question now, because it was one of the things that Iron Widow was compared to. So we got 11 out of 10. Yes, definitely. If you guys want to send in more questions, go ahead. We'll see how many we can get to, depending on how the Wi-Fi decides to work today. But yeah, so third favorite movie. What's your top two? It's your third. I'm really curious now. I don't have a set like top favorite movies. I recommend see Pacific Rim in the theater, rattles the whole room. See, now I just stopped back from seeing Doctor Strange. That's the only movie in my brain right now. Don't worry, I won't say any spoilers for any Marvel fans. Avatar, How to Train Your Dragon, Pacific Rim, Dragons and Robots. That's all you need. That honestly, you have a point there. I don't know what I'd say my favorite movies are. I'd have to think about that a little bit more. I'm too indecisive. But yeah, so while we're waiting, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to ask them. I'm skimming through them. But yeah. And also, while we're here, since we're talking about Iron Widow, I think this is a good point to just show off the incredible Illumicrate edition of it. Hi.
Oh, hello, I'm back on my phone.
I see you now.
Hello, because look, my computer decided to blue screen, and then now it's installing a systems update. Microsoft, I swear to God. Okay, so hello, I'm on my phone now.
See, I'm convinced there's just some sort of ghost that's just sabotaging this.
Oh my God, it's the first emperor of China. He's mad at me for how I portrayed him in the book. So now he's possessing my laptop.
This is really, yeah, he's getting his revenge.
Yeah, he is. Anyway, audience questions, were we on to that?
Yes, so someone asked your opinions on Pacific Rim. This was from Danny.
Okay, Pacific Rim, it is such a good movie, but of course I wish there was more, and that's also a reason I wrote Iron Widow, because there was this one line in Pacific Rim. It was like, pilots are rock stars now, and they're going on like Ellen or something. It wasn't Ellen, it was some late night show, and then I was like, oh, there's so much potential there. I wish there was more. So I feel like there's a lot more in the world of Pacific Rim that I would have liked to know about, and one movie was not enough, but we're not gonna acknowledge that the second one exists.
No, it doesn't. We don't.
Yeah.
All right. So the other question we have, okay, so someone's asking about the Chinese mythology in the book and where you took the inspiration from. So was it from original Chinese myths? Was a lot of it stuff that you would make up on your own? So where did you take a lot of the inspiration from in your book from?
For Iron Widow or Zachary Inn? Well, I guess the answer is the same, actually. They are real myths. And there's this really important book in Chinese mythology. It's called The Classic of Mountains and Seas. And it was written we don't know who wrote it, but it was written like over 2,000 years ago. And it's just like this bestiary. It has this list of these like really weird creatures. And it's so baffling. It talks about like, oh yeah, there are these like two-headed dogs and like 10-tailed fish. And then it's also the origin of the 9-tailed fox. And that myth also got spread to like Japan and Korea, where it's really popular. But yeah, the Classic of Mountains and Seas, the 9-tailed fox came from there. And it also inspired my 9-tailed fox mecha in Iron Widow. And yeah, every mecha in Iron Widow is inspired by a creature or a figure from the Classic of Mountains and Seas, because there's also Xingtian, the headless warrior, where like he got defeated in battle, his head got cut off, but his willpower was so strong that he turned his nipples into eyes and used his navel as a mouth and just kept on fighting with an axe. And so he's called the Headless Warrior. And so yeah, that book, we don't know who wrote it, and it lists such detailed descriptions of these creatures. And then also like really detailed descriptions of these like mountains, but we don't know where the info came from, because like they don't really match up to what we know in real life. So it's just like this book of alien creatures even. And oh, I was about to say something that might, wait, you guys have all read Iron Widow, so yeah, that's why. So yeah, that's the key word. They seem like alien creatures.
And so we have people in the chat who are now discovering the fan art.
Yeah. On my website, they're the mecha designs.
They look so cool. So we did have a question of which is your favorite mech design? Which one do you like the most?
Oh, okay. People expect me to say the vermilion bird, but I actually really like the 9-tailed fox design with the 9 shotguns in its final form. I was so pleased with myself when I came up with that. I was like, yeah. And then writing that first mecha battle was actually like what got me so excited to write this book. I was just telling all my friends like, oh my God, I love this book so much. And then, well, nobody had read it then. So they were like, okay, good for you. We're happy for you.
It looks so cool. I have to say all the fan art you have for this book in general just all looks amazing.
Like I know, right? I'm so honored. I'm so grateful that people like spend their time drawing my characters, drawing my OCs. That's mind blowing.
I'm like in awe every single time I see more art from it. And we also have a question of, you brought up anime before. Do you have a favorite Gundam anime?
Gundam. Actually, I'm not that big of a fan of Gundam. It's a little bit too teen male for me. I can't really. So this is like Iron Widow is basically a feminist take on the mecha genre, because anime doesn't have the best track record. Well, shonen anime doesn't have the best track record when it comes to like how they treat their female characters. So yeah, I'm not that big of a fan of Gundam.
Well, do you have a favorite anime that you'd recommend for people to watch in general?
For me personally, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! But then, but that takes a lot of energy to get into, and then you have to be like a very specific personality to want to watch like 224 episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh! Or if you want to watch all the spin-offs too, that's like over 1,000 episodes. So that's a big commitment. But if you want a lesser commitment, a really underrated anime that I like is Suisei no Gargantia. I'm just gonna type that in chat in a sec. But there's also this really great anime for creators. It's just called Red Creators, but it's about I think there's like 7 anime characters who like appear in real life, like in real life Japan, and then the ripple effects that they have, and they retain all their powers from their animes. And so it's really cool. And it's surprisingly good. And it's such a it ends up being such a heartfelt dedication to just creators and writers in general, because you get to see the writers and how they interact with their characters. And then spoilers, like when a certain character dies, the creator just like starts sobbing, and it's like, oh.
That sounds so amazing. I need to watch that immediately now. And then we'll take one final question from the audience, which is about the romance in the book. So I have to say, I love that we had a true love triangle. We had queer poly rep. It was incredible. So someone asked, why did you choose to have your relationship like that? What was the process of coming up with their relationship and that dynamic?
It was just something I really wanted to do all along, because I was like, there's so many love triangles. How come none of them ever get to be just like, they all get together? Because like everybody wants that to happen, and it's so common in fandom. But like I have yet to see it in a published book, but there are those out there. I just hadn't read them yet at the time. And I was like, I want to do that in this novel, because, Iron Widow is all about the breaking of binaries. And there's also the binary of like relationships being forced to be like one between 2 people. And I also feel like polyamory is only controversial when it's like the woman wants 2 love interests. Because if you take a guy and then you say he has 2 girlfriends, nobody bats an eye to like his motivation behind that. Nobody's like, oh, that's unrealistic. But like when it's a woman and someone's like, oh yeah, she has 2 boyfriends, suddenly people are like, oh no, that's unrealistic. Oh no, she's cheating on them, even though it could be like totally consensual. So there is definitely that double standard there, and I wanted to break past it as well, because there is a good point that like people made in that the world of Iron Widow is not opposed to polyamory. It is actually pretty normalized, because like these pilots, they have tons of concubines. That's polyamory technically. But then like Zetian having 2 boyfriends, obviously that would be controversial in her world, because no, women need to belong to only one man. But no, she's like, no, I like them both. They like each other. Like we do what we want, and that's it. That's that.
And this is why they're legends. And honestly, this has now made like all my standards for any time that there's a love triangle, I need it to end in polyamory.
I know, right?
That's just the rule now. That's what has to happen. But we are coming close to the end of the time. So if you want to say where people can find you again, just so everyone knows, because also you have amazing social media accounts and everyone needs to follow you if they're not already.
Yeah, so I am Xiran Zhao on basically every social media platform. I'm on Twitter, I'm not on Facebook, I'm kidding. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Tumblr, I'm on YouTube, I'm on TikTok, I do TikToks too. And yes, I think those are all my social media platforms.
Your TikToks are so hilarious. I still they're the best. But thank you again for joining us. It was so fun having this conversation with you and being able to talk about one of my new favorite books with you. So I just really appreciate all of the wonderful insight and this awesome conversation that you're able to share with all of us. So make sure you guys go follow Xiran, and you can follow them. You can go to their website, which is xiranjzhao.com. And thank you, Xiran. And I hope everyone here had a wonderful time. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really sorry about the technical difficulties. I had to come in 3 times, and my computer decided to start system updating.
Well, see, I had the technical difficulties to start, and then so it's fair now.
I know, things were so smooth in the beginning, and then suddenly my computer started giving up. So yeah, so I'm really sorry about that. But this was still really fun. So thank you for inviting me to come talk.
Yes, thank you so much. This was great. And thank you everyone who came and watched.
Yes. So bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.